Calculating break-even point in units, contribution margin given. Mackler Inc. sells a product with a contribution margin of 50 per unit. Fixed costs are $8,000 per month. How many units must Mackler sell to break even? And so remember that our required sales in units is equal to our fixed costs plus target profit divided by our contribution margin per unit. And let's put this in parentheses really quickly since I didn't use separate lines. Okay, and so if we're just looking to break even, then target profit is 0. So in this case, we can say fixed costs of 8,000 plus 0 divided by contribution margin per unit of 50. Open parentheses here. So we have 8,000 divided by 50 for a total of 160 units. And something to keep in mind is that we have to round to a whole number because we can't sell partial units in order to break even. And so in this case it worked out perfectly, but I would recommend using the Excel function equals round up and then our 8,000 divided by 50, comma, how many digits do you want it to round to? And in this case it's 0 because we want it to round to a whole number, close parentheses, and then that way, let's change this just so that it's not a perfect number. Instead of giving us, let me show you the difference here. If we wouldn't have, so I changed the formula to 51, contribution margin per unit 51. And if we wouldn't have used the round up function, we would have decimals here. So we'll say equals 8,000 divided by 51. And we can see that Excel is telling us 156.863. And if you hide those decimals, oops, your answer might display correctly, but technically it's not the correct answer because if you cell reference this number in the future, it's going to use the 0.86, not the total 157 units. So that roundup function is an important one that you might want to use, especially if the numbers aren't working out perfectly. So out of best practice, I would go ahead and use the roundup function.